Afternoon everyone. By the way, I am doing this video because I cannot join you today in our class and I feel really sorry for that. I am doing this video all the way from the City of Smiles. Yes, it's from the Bacolod because I'm having my training here. So I hope you guys will understand, and if you have any questions, you can call me or text me right after this video. So I hope you guys will like it.
Perspective on the role of mass media in society. Have any of you wondered about this very interesting topic? By the way, I am Joseph Emil David, your classmate. The role and influence of mass media. Mass media is communication, whether written, broadcast, or spoken, that reaches a large audience. This includes television, radio, advertising, movies, the internet, newspapers, magazines, and so forth. Mass media is a significant force in modern culture. Sociologists refer to this as a mediated culture, where media reflects and creates the culture. The messages from these different media promote not only products, but moods, attitudes, and senses of what is and is not. Mass media makes possible the concept of celebrity. Without the ability of movies, magazines, and news media to reach across thousands of miles, people could not become famous. In fact, only political and business leaders, as well as the few notorious outlaws, were famous in the past. Only in recent times have actors, singers, and other social elites become celebrities, or as what they call them, the stars. Now, here's an addition. The current level of media saturation has not always existed. As recently as the 1960s and the 1970s, television, for example, consisted of primarily free networks, public broadcasting, and a few local independent stations. These channels aim their programming primarily at two-parent, middle-class families. Even so, some middle-class households did not even own a television. Today, one can find television in the poorest of homes and multiple TVs in most middle-class homes. Not only has availability increased, but programming is increasingly diverse, with shows aimed to please all ages, incomes, backgrounds, and attitudes. This widespread availability and exposure makes television the primary focus of most mass media discussions. More recently, the internet has increased its role exponentially, as most or more businesses and households sign on. Although TV and the internet have dominated the mass media, movies and magazines, particularly those lining the aisles at grocery checkout stands, also play a powerful role in culture, as do other forms of media. Now, have you ever wondered about this question? Anyone? I'll give you 3 seconds to answer. Okay. Legislatures, mass media executives, local school officials, and sociologists have all debated this controversial question. While opinions vary as to the extent and type of influence the mass media wields, All sides agree that mass media is a permanent part of modern culture. There are three main sociological perspectives on the role of mass media. First, the limited effects theory. The second, the class dominant theory. And the last one, the culturalist. The limited effects theory. Now, this theory argues that because people generally chooses what to watch or read based on what they already believe, media exerts negligible influence. This theory originated and was tested in the 1940s and 1950s. Studies that examined the ability of media to influence voting found that well-informed people relied more on personal experience, prior knowledge, and their own reasoning. However, media experts more likely swayed those who are less informed. Critics point to problems with this perspective. These problems are: first, they claim that limited effects theory ignores the media's role in framing and limiting the discussion and debate of issues. How media frames the debate and what questions members of the media ask change the outcome of the discussion and the possible conclusion people may draw. Second, this theory came into existence when the availability and dominance of media was far less widespread. The class dominant theory. This theory argues that the media reflects and projects the view of a minority elite which controls it. Those people who own and control the corporations that produce media comprise this elite. Advocates of this view concern themselves particularly with massive corporate mergers of media organizations, which limit competition and put big business at the reins of media, especially the news media. Their concern is that when ownership is restricted, a few people then have the ability to manipulate what people can see or hear. The culturalist theory. Now, this theory was developed in 1980s and 1990s, combines the other two theories and claims that people interact with media to create their own meaning out of the images, messages they receive. This theory sees audiences as playing an active rather than passive role in relation to mass media. The other strand of research focuses on those who produce the media, particularly the news. Theorists emphasize that audiences choose what to watch among a wide range of options, choose how much to watch, and may choose the mute button or the VCR remote over the programming selected by the network or cable station. Now, here's an addition. Studies of mass media done by sociologists, parallel text reading, and interpretation research completed by linguists. Both groups of researchers find that when people approach material, whether written, text, or media images and messages, they interpret that material based on their own knowledge and experience. Thus, when researchers ask different groups to explain the meaning of a particular song or video, the groups produce widely divergent interpretations based on age, gender, race, ethnicity, and religious background. Therefore, culturalist theorists claim that while a few elite in large corporations may exert significant control over what information media produces and distributes, personal perspective plays a more powerful role in how the audience members interpret those messages.
What exactly are we talking about when we talk about mass media? Well, we're talking about the dissemination of information, or how information is transmitted within a culture. And this could include print media, like books, newspapers, and magazines, as well as digital media, like TV, movies, radio, and the internet. Exactly how this media is consumed changes across cultures and age groups. For example, my grandmother gets a lot of her information about current events through TV and newspapers, but I primarily get this information online. And when we look at mass media, we can look at the role it plays in our society through different sociological perspectives. So according to the functionalist view, one of the most important functions of mass media is to provide entertainment. So it's meant to occupy our leisure time. But the functionalist view also says that mass media can also act as an agent of socialization and an enforcer of social norms. It presents a standardized view of society and provides a collective experience for members of that society. Think about the shared experience of watching the Olympics on television, or being with a group of people to see a movie on opening night. Mass media also functions to bring people together, and there are entire internet-based communities that are focused on things like LGBT rights or childcare, or fans of music groups that sing songs about Harry Potter. But mass media can also tell us about what society expects of us through what it rewards and punishes. So when we hear something about criminal behavior from the mass media, it is often talked about in terms of bringing criminals to justice, which reinforces the idea that criminal behaviors are bad and should be avoided. However, the media can sometimes also glorify behaviors that society as a whole would deem to be wrong, things like intense physical violence. Mass media also functions as a promoter of consumer culture. At the turn of the century, the average US child saw 20,000 commercials a year on TV. And that doesn't include ads on the radio or billboards or signs in front of stores announcing 50% off sales. And it's only increased from there. And it's not necessarily clear what kind of an impact this might have on the next generation. The conflict view focuses on how the media reflects and portrays, and may even exacerbate, divisions that exist within our society, like divisions based on race, ethnicity, gender, or social class. Conflict theory uses the term gatekeeping to describe the process by which a small number of people and corporations control what material is being presented on the media. It describes how information, so things that appear in our newspapers, the stories that are made into movies, what TV shows are turned into pilots, it describes how these things move through a series of gates before they can reach the public. In some countries, this might be controlled primarily by the government, but for others, it's decided primarily by large media corporations. Gatekeeping can also have more of an effect on some media than others. For example, a lot of control is put on what big budget movies are made, but there is very little overhead control of what gets posted online. The conflict theory also describes how mass media often reflects the dominant ideology, giving time and space, or privileging, certain social, economical, and political interests, while sometimes actively limiting other views. The people who make the choices about what media is produced, the gatekeepers, are predominantly white, male, and wealthy. And as a result, stories representing the views of racial minority groups, women, LGBT individuals, and working class people are typically underrepresented. And because of this divide, portrayals of minority groups can often be stereotyped, or guided by unrealistic generalizations about a certain group of people. And while some corporations have taken the steps to try to improve this, they sometimes take it in the wrong direction, which results in tokenism instead of actual diversity, or cases where a single minority member is added to a TV show or movie as a stand-in for that entire group. Feminist theory's understanding of mass media is similar to what we would see in conflict theory, in that it also holds that mass media stereotypes and misrepresents society towards the dominant ideology. Specifically, it focuses on the way that messages about men and women are represented in the media. It notes that women are often underrepresented in media content, that men are often considered normal while women are considered to be other. Think about ads for products. We have razors and razors for women, pens and pens for her. Depictions of men and women are often highly stereotyped, enforcing strict gender roles and emphasizing traditional sex roles. So women are more often portrayed as victims and men as aggressors. And women are much more likely to be depicted as shallow or being obsessed with looks, which also makes it more likely that they'll be sexualized and objectified. The interactionist perspective looks at mass media on the micro level to see how it shapes day-to-day behavior. It looks at how mass media blurs the line between solitary and group activities. So think of the act of seeing a movie. You may be watching it with other people, but because of societal norms or even theater rules, you are actually forbidden from talking about the movie with the people you're with. It also looks at the fact that how we connect with other people using media tends to change over time. So whereas before I might have called my grandparents to keep in touch with them, now I can talk with them via email, or even text message. The rate at which people meet romantic partners online has also increased, which is something that probably would have seemed very confusing to just a few generations before ours.